Okay, hello folks. So this is Mr. Lunnon here, and I'm going to be going through in this video some of the really basic things regarding using your graphical calculators. Okay, so the one that lots of you will currently have is the FX9750GII. So this will allow me to show you how to use some of this for some of the very basic functions. And in this video, just some of the things I'm going to go through are changing between radians and degrees, so dead easy, but if you don't know how, you'll be in trouble. Using the graphing function, so we're just going to focus on the graphing function, which is 3 from the menu, and then how we can just fiddle around and convert between the V window for different types of functions. So converting between degrees and radians is very, very straightforward. So all we need to do, it doesn't really matter where we are actually in the menu, I don't think, in the calculator, so we just go Shift and then Set Up. Immediately wrong. So yeah, we have to be in one of the options here. So let's just go to the graphing option. So just select 3, and if we then go Shift and then Set Up, it gives us lots of options. So we just simply need to scroll down, and the angle at the moment is in radians. Okay, so I'll leave that as it is for now, but I will come back later and show you how you would change between degrees and radians. Okay, so just to go through that again, so Shift, once you're in the graphing menu, Shift, menu, and obviously Setup's above it, scroll down, and you would simply select these to go between the two. Okay, so if I wanted degrees, I click F1. If I wanted radians, I click F2. If I wanted gradient, I click F3. You tend not to use that. Okay, so as I say, I'll leave it in the radians for now. Okay, so starting to think about graphing some things then. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a few different types of functions here. So first one I'm going to put in is 2x plus 5. I'm also going to put in x squared. So you want to use this to get x's, okay? So x squared minus x minus 6. What else have I got? So I've got an exponential function that we'll have a little look at. So Shift E. Another thing here, folks, if in doubt, put a bracket in, okay? So I'm going to put e to the power of 2 lots of x minus 1, close the bracket twice, and then I'm going to move the whole thing down 1 as well. So I'm going to write minus 1 here. So that's an exponential function. We'll have a little play around with these in a second. I'm also going to do a cubic graph as well. So my cubic graph, I'm just going to put it in as 3 factors already. So I'm going to do x minus 2, x minus 1, and x plus 1. And the last thing I'm going to put in here is I'm just going to do a trig function. So I'm going to do 2 sine of 3x. I'm going to put the 3x in brackets. And then I'm going to take away 1 from that whole thing. Okay? So at the moment, if I click, so I've then inputted them all here. So you'll see here that they're dark. Okay, so that means if I click draw, it will draw all of them. So if I just want to draw the first one, so I've got to deselect the other one. So I go to the equation, I click select. So as you can now see, that's now not highlighted in black, so that won't plot that one now. So I'll do the same here. So I'll deselect that one, deselect that one, deselect that one. Okay. So the only one of these 5 graphs that I've inputted that it's going to draw is going to be the top one, 2x plus 5. Okay. So let's have a little look and see what that looks like. So draw. Okay, so immediately can't even see it, so it's got some funny scale. So I want to go V window, and I'm just going to click standard. So that's then going to do x values between minus 10 and 10, and y values between minus 10 and 10. Click exit, click draw again. This now looks better. Okay. In the later video, I'm going to show you how to use gsolve to work out things like roots and intercepts and intersection points and all those sorts of things. But this is literally just showing you the basics here, folks, of navigating the V window, because it tends to be something that people find tricky, but really it's very straightforward. Okay, so that looks good. Okay. So let's deselect that one now, and let's have a look at the quadratic one. So that looks good. So let's draw that one. We'll click exit. No, sorry, click execute. So execute. So execute is in the button you click every time you want to put in a new graph. So here's my quadratic. That looks good. So that's absolutely fine. Okay. Now let's just go right and fiddle with this quadratic a little bit. And let's say I put 4x here and minus 26 here. Okay. Execute. So if I draw that, I can see part of it, but not all of it. Okay. So it looks like the x values are good here, but the y values aren't any good. So you click F3 for V window. And I'm just going to change the y values to go down to -30. Okay. Exit, draw. So that now looks pretty good. Okay. You might want to go a little bit higher. So V window, and let's make the y maximum 20. Exit, draw. So the main buttons you want to do, so you want to exit, execute. Okay. They normally get you out of most bits of trouble. Okay. So that looks really good, doesn't it? Okay, so that's our quadratic graph looking good, and we've just fiddled around with the scale. So similarly, so I'll deselect that one now, and I'll have a look at the deselect. There we go, and we'll have a look at this exponential graph. Okay, so exit, so execute, and it's drawn it there. Look, okay. Now, what these don't do, these graphical calculators, they don't show you any asymptotes. Okay. But what you could do is you could possibly trace along it to then work out what the asymptotes would be. So the scale looks pretty good. It's all right, but I'll zoom in a little bit. So I'll go again, V window. I don't need to go much below Y, so I'll just make my Y minimum -5 now. And then my X's look okay as well. So maybe I'll just do my X's between -5 and +5. Execute basically gets, and it executes like enter. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Okay, that looks like a good shape for an exponential graph. Okay, so you can use this cool little function here called the trace function. Okay, and just move along it. So it's looking like here. So if you look at the y value there, the y value is getting closer and closer and closer to -1. Yeah, so 0.999999999, etc. Okay, so this is implying to us that there would be an asymptote at -1. So you'd have to draw, if you were to sketch this yourselves, you then have to draw a horizontal line with dashes that goes through -1. Okay, so that's our exponential. I've also got a cubic. Okay, so select this one. Select. Yep, there we go. Execute, and there we go. So it's drawn that cubic for me. Okay, so this time the X scale looks a bit big. Okay, so let's go V window. So the Y scale looks a bit big. So let's just change my biggest Y value to 5. Exit, execute. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. So if you're not doing trig graphs, you should just be able to input the graph here. And then once you've done that, fiddle around with the scale. So go V window, select standard, and then fiddle around with it from there. Yeah. So if I go back to standard, it's just going to look very similar. It's going to stretch out a little bit. Okay. There are also options for the zoom. You can zoom in. So zoom in, execute, zoom in, execute, etc. Okay. So zoom is something else that you can use to help you here. All right, to zoom in and out. And sometimes that's a bit quicker than doing other things. Okay. So like I said, just focusing on a few very basic things here. I'll go through the gsolve function in a different video. So let's just have a little look now at the last function. So let's just look at this trig function that I've inputted here, which is going to be, oh, something's gone wrong here. So yeah, it doesn't like this one. So what have I done here? Yes, I forgot to put the -1 here, look. It should be okay now. All right. Now that actually looks pretty good. Okay. So let's just check they're in the right mode. So let's go V window. Let's put ourselves in trig mode now. Okay, let's put ourselves in trig mode. So we're now in trig mode. So this you'll see, you might recognize this as being 3 lots of 3.14 or -3 lots of 3.14. So it's going to put it between -3 pi and 3 pi. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, it's not the best function actually, but you know. So again, what we might want to do is we want to go V window. The Y values aren't great, yeah. So let's make let's go between -5 and +5. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good now, doesn't it? Okay. Now, ordinarily with trig functions, obviously, you want to do them between, often it's 0 and 360. They might change a little, fiddle around with that a little bit. Okay, so if you want to change that, so you just go V window, and let's say I wanted to do 0. So I just select 0 here. And if it's 360, it'd be 2 pi. Execute. There we go. Okay, so that would show the graph in the region that you require it. Okay. Now, I shouldn't really have started with radians, given that this might be a beginner's one for some of you. So I'm going to go back and put them in degrees now. Okay, so I'm going to go Shift, Setup, and I'm going to change my angle input to degrees now. Okay. Now, if you now draw this, it's going to be completely messed up. Okay, so it doesn't look good. V window, trig. So whenever you're plotting any sort of trig function, you need to select the trig option. Okay, let's see what happens now. And again, that looks pretty good again. So, but let's say we want to do it between, so we'll do it between, I don't know, minus 180. You might be asked to do it between minus 180 and maybe 5, let's say 180. Execute, there we go, minus 180 and 180. And it looked like the scale above was pretty good, but it didn't look below. So we'll just change that to minus 4 maybe and see what that looks like. There we go. Okay. So that looks pretty good, I hope. All right. So the main takeaways from here, folks. So plot the graphs in here. If they don't look quite right, just fiddle around with the scale using the V window option, making sure that if it's any sort of trig graph, it's in, you've used a trig mode. And if it's any sort of other graph, you use the standard mode. Okay. So one last thing I'll just discuss before I finish here. I'm quite snotty with hay fever. As you can plot more than one graph at once. Okay, so if I just go back here and I select the first one and the second one, execute. You notice I always go wrong between it. So again, that doesn't look good. So I click, it doesn't look good at all, but that's fine. So V window, there's no trig graph there, so just go standard. Again, looks pretty good, but I've got the bottom of the quadratic missing, so I'll just extend the range of the Y values downwards. So I'll select V window again, and I'll make Y start at negative 30. Negative 30. And I should get the whole thing in there. There we go. Okay. Again, not great. So let's go V window. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. So the Y value wants to go higher as well. So let's go for 30 for the maximum Y value. There we go. So we can see everything we need there. We can see the intersection points. We can see the shape of both of the graphs. We could find the roots. We could find the intercepts. We could find areas, which I'll do in the next video. So hopefully that's been useful. Obviously, if you've got any further questions, please do come and see us.